So now we are recording, and we can go and say, hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hi.
We are here to talk about this book, The Educator's Guide to STEAM. And it is written by two awesome female science educators, Cassie Quigley and Danielle Hero. And Noe's going to get us started.
Okay, so I'm just going to do a brief history of STEAM and the entire STEAM movement in general. So what does STEAM stand for? Science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. If this sounds at all similar to any acronym you've heard before, it's STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. What STEAM did was incorporate humanities and fine arts in order to get science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It does closely related to real world life and just kind of opening up a wider audience to it. So the goals of STEAM are to increase participation in STEM classes and careers, to prevent disconnect between math and science and the real world. I know a lot of us in the UO Teach program will have amazing conversations about curriculum, but 9 times out of 10, when it's time for a science student or a math student to come up and express their ideas, it's always, I'm not sure how to apply this to my field. So STEAM kind of gives a answer to that. Another goal it has is to increase inclusion and diversity within STEM, because girls and students of color opt out during late elementary and middle school, and it's been found in numerous studies. So the origin of STEAM comes from Georgia Yakeman. She first created this framework in 2006, and she began implementing it in 2007 to her engineering and technology classes. She continued to teach middle school and high school classes up until about 2011 when she was invited to Korea, and she gave a lecture and taught teachers and different schools in Korea about her framework, which led to Korea implementing it as a nationwide curriculum in 2011. Momentum really began to get behind the STEAM framework in 2012. So what did it look like? There was never really a set program or curriculum for STEAM, which added more difficulty to the implementation. Without a solid blueprint or guide, teachers were free to kind of do whatever they wanted to with the idea. So this led to after-school programs, summer camps, and specialized classes. The only problem with this is that it targeted small populations of students. So schools began asking themselves, how can they get all their students behind this program? So the early adopters of this was Andover High School in Massachusetts, Da Vinci Schools in California, Drew Charter School in Georgia, Fisher STEAM Middle School in South Carolina, Kwatama Elementary School in Oregon, and Pulaski Middle School in Virginia. Is STEAM the future? So as of January 2019, 29,000 plus educators in the 50 states and 2 U.S. territories have implemented STEAM into their curriculum. 38 foreign countries have began following the same model. And again, as previously stated, Korea now has nationwide implementation. All their schools have this in their framework. Okay. So that's just my brief history.
Okay, I am going to show you guys an example of STEAM curricula, and really quick, I left in one thing on purpose, which you guys may look at this and think of something that's a professional product that exists, that is highly polished, and you think, how could I ever tackle this? How could I ever create something like this? So I mess up on my guitar, and I say shit in the middle, and I think it's very important for you guys to understand that even making my cute little video with my high diversity of stuff, I am making mistakes constantly, and STEAM is a learning process. Hi there! My name is Ducky.
and today I am here to teach you about STEAM. But the first thing I wanted to address was why I am doing this in video format. More than just learning about the concept of STEAM, I have been trying to actively engage in STEAM by using different methodologies of learning tools and garnering mastery in the form of the art of the compilation of the actual work of STEAM as an educating tool itself. So the first thing that we're going to do to develop our STEAM curricula is pose a problem. This is called problem-based inquiry, and what it does is instead of having this weird disconjugated kind of style of learning, who cares if the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell if it doesn't actually do anything? So for a model of problem-based inquiry, I created a little plot project using claymations, or using clay models.
Hi there, team. Today we're going to take a look at some of my little illustrations here. This is a way to help someone garner an understanding of what's going on in transcription and translation using clay models. Wow.
Hello again, team. What we're going to look at right now, a second critical part of developing STEAM curricula, is that it is both collaborative in nature and artistic. We're going to interject the art, and what this does is this takes a student who may be a poor mathematician or poor test taker and allows them to access the great study of science. For example, I wrote a little song here, a song about caffeine and a unique amino acid that counteracts the jitters called L-theanine. And obviously that information just kind of floating around is not very accessible or memorable. But with my little song here, I hope to help the students realize they can access science in more than one way. I like coffee and that drug is caffeine. Oh shit. I like coffee and that drug is caffeine. It's a CNS stimulant that will make you jittery. That amino acid, it is L-theanine. So why don't you come and have a cup with me? Okay, team, so the final component that I found to be a hallmark of STEAM is the integration of technology. And I believe that that technology helps make education more accessible in a way that it just never was before. For example, you miss a lecture now, today on Zoom, you might have an opportunity to go back and watch it again, watch it slower for better comprehension. So what I did to illustrate me trying to get a grasp on the technology is I tried to make an animation. And I will do my best to voice it over, and after the animation, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for Ducky here today. So I hope you all enjoyed a little bit of steam in your engine.
Oh, I hope you all enjoyed the me of yesteryear showing you some examples of STEAM curricula.
Now I want to talk about the A in STEAM. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. So the A in STEAM. So this is all about integrating the arts into STEAM. And like Noe said earlier, it's kind of about, making real world problems and bringing in those youth that otherwise might feel disconnected from science education. So the first thing to talk about is that STEAM is not talking about art necessarily, but arts. So we want to have a big world view and have a really big lens when we talk about the arts. So it can be a visual element. So that can be like things that you can see, and that might be like the map made in the bottom left. Some kids made maps of their homes so that they could conceptualize and really see where they are. It can also be performance. So the book talks about high school, where when talking about water crises in cities, they did the play Urinetown, which haven't seen it, but it sounds great. There can also be English language arts. So that would be reading books about what is going on, or maybe doing a letter writing campaign. There's also social studies. So studying the history of what happened is very important. Media arts, so that could be presenting your ideas or trying to solve the problem with a video or something like that. And then also I have the cloud project that you can see that kids use to demonstrate their understanding of clouds. And then it could also be creative writing, so maybe making poems, things like if you want to solve the problem by evoking feelings of something that's scientific. So now when integrating STEAM into problem solving, we should always recognize that the biggest thing of STEAM is, it's that solving problems. So we want to use the arts as a tool to solve problems. And that can either be, like seen in architecture or science communication, or used to visualize the problem for a student. And it doesn't just have to be design or aesthetics, and it doesn't just have to be a tool. It can be either or. So one of the teachers in this book talked about how they used art to solve a problem of sea turtle migration. So they created models where they made like little houses and kind of like put these houses around on a map. And when they were able to really see and visualize what was going on, they were able to really think about those like sea turtles and how they're going to try and save the sea turtles as a collaboration with the zoo. And the teacher said that when students use art as an actual part of the problem solving, it changed the way they would typically solve their problems. So the ideas changed. Another thing is just to be really sure that art should be parallel to other STEAM disciplines. So it should not be an extra or an afterthought. Really great real world example that I have found when it comes to STEAM is the Barbara Walker Crossing Wildwood Trail, or on the Wildwood Trail in Portland. So this bridge was made because there's a walking path that went across a busy street, and they really wanted to figure out how to have a safe bridge that didn't have that like disruption that you would get from going across like a really rough bridge over a street. It wanted to be very Portland, nature, birds, that kind of stuff. So they used art and architecture to create the poles and the green and that kind of stuff that just lifts you up above the street. And then you can just still be feeling like you're in nature. So when people are going across their bridge, they're just like, peaceful nature. So that's my conclusion for the A in STEAM. So it's really just all about using that art and the different types of arts to like really create those real world examples and connect students to science.
For my part, I'm going to be focusing on how to create real world examples in STEAM classrooms. And I want to just start off with a quote, kind of speaks to the importance of real world examples being implemented in classrooms. So problem-based learning and scientific inquiry approaches have effectively used scenario-based problem solving for decades as a way to have students contextualize real world problems and understand the scientific process. So 6 steps for creating a real world example. The first step, begin by reviewing content standards. And one word of caution, the standards must be assessed during the STEAM unit to determine students have learned and where they need more practice. This can be considered an example of backward design. And then the second step, research an issue relevant to your locale and connect it to the standards. Try and get a feel for student interest by asking them what they want to look into, or maybe doing some sort of survey. And then make sure these examples are relevant across grade levels. So for younger ages, have it be more local in scope. And as you go up in grade level, you can go to more globally oriented problems. And then the third step, brainstorm ways to integrate issues with the standards. This is an important time to incorporate colleagues into the brainstorming process. So this can be other teachers within your school, the principal, or higher up people within your school district. And then the fourth step, write the scenario in a problem format. And one thing to keep in mind is making sure the problem can be taken in many different directions. The fifth step, write the driving question or questions. And a few examples of driving questions include, how have changes in the world impacted native people? Why is science important and how can it help save people? How can simple machines and proportions be used to supply a developing community with sustainable water supply? In what ways do artificial reefs help or harm the development of marine fisheries and contribute to their natural habitat? The sixth and final step is to finalize the scenario. A few questions to ask yourself when finalizing the scenario are, how does this scenario address elements of science, technology, engineering, art, and math? Are there ways to further incorporate one of the subjects? And does the scenario get at humanistic problems or social issues that lend themselves to the arts? A few other tips to consider when creating STEAM problems. So work with community members and professionals in the field because they can be great resources. Use local universities and educational outreach programs because they often have access to different resources and programs that not all public schools have access to. And then connect to nonprofit and government agencies because they can be great experts on the topics being covered. And then partner with experts during professional development. So this can be teachers, other parents, or just people who have an interest in STEAM within the community who are willing to help out. And more information can be found on creating STEAM problems within the classroom in chapter 3 of the book, An Educator's Guide to STEAM. Thank you. Sweet.
And that's our presentation. So I guess now is when we all wave at the screen and go, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop recording.